sustainable development definition is so clear for us. We need to have our needs without compromising the next generation wills. So this is the definition of sustainable development as far as we know yet. And I told you about the scientific relevance of decision making. And I described that we've got the system and the success level, and we need some sort of knowledge that we call it science in order to get closer to these kinds of definitions. So, and I talked about the scientific law, that it's based on the experimental, and or some circumstances about the effects and side effects of our range of experiments. So we've got some kind of approval for sorry, the thing that we're going to describe, and I also mentioned that we generalize and formalize the experiment, and it's not proved yet to be wrong. So that's the thing that we call it science. I talked about the law of gravitation, about the relation between the star, the sun, and here the planet, which is the Earth in this case. And I told you that according to some experiments, according to some kind of physical calculations, some basic theory about the physics, we know that there are some options that is going to be affected on this gravitation, such as the mass of those objects, the distance between them. So we try to find some kind of pattern, formalize them, and use it in our researches, the things that we're going to face with. As I said before about the principle, it's a condition for something that we call it principle. It can be violated, but there are also consequences that we need to take care of, and we have to know what is it for. And the last thing that I told you was the sample about the animal cell, about the respiration, which mentions that must occur for animal cell to survive. So this is some kind of principle that we can follow for that example. But you know, the point is, if you continue those kinds of relatives between the objects in your field of study, and consider all the items around it, and have the big looking at the system, you can have the better estimation on what's going on and what is the needs, what kind of thing that you have to provide in order to make your system run. So this is just one sample of the principle. So from here, this is the new thing that I'm going to tell you. Let's look at our system that we're going to analyze. So there are options that we need to know. We discussed before about the open system and closed system. As you can see on the figure, there are two different systems that we're going to describe. One of them is the open system with respect to matter and energy, both of them. The other one is open in respect of energy but closed in the matter field. We've got conservation of matter, that almost all cases expected nuclear decay. Matter is not created or destroyed during chemical reaction. It's only change form. So this is one of the laws that we're going to work on it. So if you combine these two rules, the gravitation and the law of conservation of matter, we can see that, I'm not going too deeply inside the law of gravitation, but you know that our planet is going to, there is a fixed orbit for the planet, which is going to be, it's oriented by the star, which is sun. So there is some kind of energy which is going to just, keep that object in the orbit. And also the law of reservation for the matter, which means that they're not going to destroy it, they're just going to change the form. So according to these two laws, we can say that Earth is closed system. I also mentioned before that why it's a closed system, but this is just, we proved it before. We just compared the mass of the income and outcomes from the Earth, and when we compare it to the whole mass of the Earth, we just realized that it's a closed system in respect of matter. But now we can use science. These two rules can lead you to the way that you can conclude that Earth is a closed system. So that's one of the samples that we are going to use the science in our analyzing the system. So this is the Earth with the closed system, but inside there are two items that we talked before, the ecosphere and lithosphere. Both of them are open cycles. Both of them are open system. Why? Because you've got a connection between the lithosphere and ecosphere. So that's the thing that you need to consider, that the Earth itself is the closed system. But inside there are some subsystems that they are open. They've got some kind of connections together. We're going to describe what sort of connection is going to be. But the first item is the first law of thermodynamics. Energy cannot be created or destroyed, but it can change form. This is the first law of thermodynamics that we know. So this is the object, one of our tools that we're going to conclude our aim. Second law of thermodynamics, it just mentioned that the energy transfers from the heat. The heat is going to transfer from cooler to hotter body. So this is the second law of thermodynamics. Like, as I said before, it's the concept of thermodynamics and the other laws that we're going to use in our system. So knowing these kinds of concepts will lead you to have the better estimation and better understanding about the whole system. We also call it the law of entropy. So like the one simple sample for the second law of thermodynamics is melting the ice in the water. So it's going to be spread all over the new environment. So this is just a sample for the second law. So there are some items that we need to know. For doing something, there should be some kind of tool, some kind of rational process for making something. Imagine that we've got some kind of woods, okay, and we've got some sort of bomb in our hand. Is it likely to happen that if we just put that bomb on the woods, it's going to make a house for us? Is it likely? Is it possible to do so?
No.
No. So it's the unlikely procedure. You need some kind of procedure for starting from A, and there are some procedures that you need to take care of. Lots of designing, lots of material, lots of engineering works. They need to be done for reaching your goal. So this is unlikely to happen for us. The other side is correct. You can have the place, you can put explosive, and after that you can just see some woods all around you. But not that way. So this is unlikely to happen for us. So we're going to analyze about the systems that we're going to face with. In respect of our knowledge about the procedure of the item that you need to consider. So the definition of entropy, according to the second law of thermodynamics, the entropy, the chaos and disorder of an isolated system always increase. This is true for an isolated system like the closed box. So if you get the spray of some kind of flowers, and you want to make the room fresh, have the better smell in the room. If you just spray it with one corner of the room, you can easily sense it at the other side of the room. Why? Because of these spreading the molecules around the environment. So this is the second law of thermodynamics. The ecosphere as a complex system. There are some items that you need to consider in the ecosphere when you're going to describe it. As I said, as a complex system. Non-linearity is one of the objects, and the other object that we're going to know is the positive and negative feedback of the events that we're going to describe. Non-linearity means the small changes in initial conditions can have very large consequences in the system. Okay, so small changes in the initial condition can cause a very giant, very big consequences in the system. Like, for example, that there is a car parked somewhere, very, not that slow, but it's not that flat place. If you just push the car just a little bit, so you change the initial condition. So maybe we're going to talk about whether it's going to be increased or decreased. But it's not going to be the same procedure that it was in that place. Like, so if you do some kind of changes in the initial condition and try to push the car, it's going to, there are some consequences after that. It means that the car will, start moving. Okay? So this is the connection between the items in the ecosphere are complex. So most of them are non-linear. So non-linearity is the item that we need to consider in our analyzing. The other one, very, very, very important thing that you need to know is the feedbacks. We've got two parts of feedbacks. Please remind me to talk about the upstream and downstream if I forgot. Okay. The positive feedback. A reaction to an event that increases the effect. This is the positive feedback. Why? Like the car that is in the very, very sharp slope. Okay? If you push the car just a little bit and make it run, it's going to be changed. First of all, the position, the whole system will change from stop onto like start some kind of movement. And after that, the speed is going to be increased. So there are some feedbacks which we consider them as a positive feedback. So when a reaction to an event that increased the effect, a self-reinforced loop. Another item is a negative feedback that you need to know, the other way of the positive. So a reaction to an event that reduces the effect, or the balancing loop, as it said. Okay, so there are some items that got the negative feedback. So when you're going to analyze your environment, you need to consider these kinds of items. It's a very, very, very important thing. You can easily write about the feedbacks, what is the difference between positive and negative, and try to make some samples. As a for the negative feedback, I've got a very good sample here, like the...
I'm so sorry, and the negative feedback, can you explain more about the negative feedback? Positive, it means the reaction, it means the event, it increase the reaction, yeah? And,
no, it's a reaction that is going to increase the consequences, the item that is going to be happening to your system. That's a positive. So it's going, with just small changes, as I said, in the initial value, you can have the big change.
Big change.
The positive is big change of increasing.
Yes.
The negative feedback is big change of decreasing. Such as, for negative feedback, I've got the sample here. As you can, I hope that you can you see the...
Yes.
Tahmasebi? Yeah. Okay. So, this is the blood glucose that you're going to have. Imagine that you've got the problem and you're using the insulin, some drugs.
Mm-hmm.
So between the meals, it's going to, the glucose is going to absorb, and after that just came down, and instead of the insulin you're going to have glucagon in your blood, and this is another meal that you're going to have. So with these kinds of medicines we can control the amount of glucose in the body of the the ill guy, okay, and have it in that consequence, in that way. As you can see that there sometimes the blood glucose it's going to be increased, and after that, after observing the glucose of the meal, and after that it's going to be decreased, so the number of glucagon will be increased. So this is just one sample of the negative. For the positive feedback in control, I've got a diagram here with two axes, the date and the years of life expectancy. It's hard to pronounce. Yeah, it used to be before 20 and 50 years that we just expect that everyone could live. But after some, as you can see, it's a very, very same as nothing slope is happened here. So we've got the same situation for like 2,000 years, for something like 1,600, 700 years. And after that, because of some feedbacks, we've got some kind of acceleration and increasing in the system, which is the life expectancy. And we've got the increase of the life expectancy, as you can see right now at 2000, 2011 or something. We are expecting people to live between 60 and 70. So it's a positive feedback. With some changes in the initial condition, you can increase your system. Another sample for the positive feedback is world population growth. So there are two axes here, the number of the year that you're going to analyze. This is 2025, like 15 years, 14 years from now. And this is the number of the population. So 2 million years BC, something like that. The population was 0.1 billion people. Okay, so this is the graph for the world population growth. And after that, because of some items, you can see that there is a slope. Here it's not too much, but there is. So the population increased to like from 0.1 to, I don't know, 0.4 or 5 or something like that. This is the Old Stone Age, Bronze Age, Iron Age, Middle Age, and right now the Modern Age. So with some kind of changes in the system, you've got increase in the whole system. So this is another item for the positive feedback. What was the feedbacks? As I said, it could be anything. Some people could say that it was religious. Some people could say that it was the health improvement. Some people could say that it's the modern life. There are two items that I forgot to tell you, which are very, very important. The concept of upstream and downstream. I'm not sure whether you heard the words before or no, but imagine that we've got a river. I can't find the slide, so just going to talk about like a few minutes. Imagine that we've got the river, and there are the upper side of the river, and we've got downside of the river, right? Mm-hmm. When you're going to try to find some kind of solution for a problem, you need to think as upstream instead of downstream. Why? Imagine that you've got the polluted river, and you try to find a pollution for the river. Okay, this is just one sample for describing these items. Where are you going to start your investigation about why the river became polluted?
Upstream.
No, where in the river? At the downside of the river, or you're
Upstream.
going to come to the source?
To the source.
Why?
Because the river is flowed under the upside.
Okay.
Source of the problem,
Yes.
excuse me, interrupting you. Source of the problem is upstream, so you should solve it.
Why?
What is your
Just
question?
imagine
I'm
about
not
the
having-
river. We've got the river and it's polluted.
Yes.
It's a polluted river.
Yeah.
So we're going to find a pollution. What was the thing that affected on the river? If you start your investigation from the downside of the river and come to the upper side of the river, there are plenty of variables that you need to consider. So they just accelerate each other, maybe. I'm just telling you that maybe. Maybe they just accelerate each other, right? So, because we want to hesitate the way of thinking that, yeah, there are plenty of items going to be affected on the river, so it's better to go to the source, to the upstream, to the source of the river, okay, and try to analyze the system. Is there any pollution here? No, okay, so let's just go like 100 meters down from the source, try to do the checking again, and after that, the same procedure. The first, pollution source that you found was the thing. Why the difference between upstream and downstream is important for us, and why we need to solve the problems in the way is you're going to invent something, right? Like as I said before, we're going to invent the cars. In the upstream way of thinking, for trying to minimize the side effects of the new invention, we need to think from the very high level, what kind of items that is going to be happen, what kind of consequences that we don't want it to happen with these kinds of invention. So when you analyze the system from the beginning, it's very easy to try to design the system in the way that you can hesitate these kinds of consequences. Otherwise, you're going to invent something, it's going to be very useful, it's going to be all around the world, but after like 10 years, when you just observe the consequences of your invention, it's too late. Or it's going to cost you too much to try to solve the problem. So one of the aims that we're going to study these kinds of objects in the engineering field is before designing something, you need to think about the consequences. As I told you before, we're going to talk about the life cycle in like a few minutes. I'm just going to finish it in like 2 or 3 minutes. Just talk more about the upstream and why we need it. Before inventing something, you need to consider about the violations to the principles. As I said, the 4 principles. So when you put some effort, just focus on the side effect of your invention, of your facility, of your factory that you're going to make, your refinery, I don't know, anything, your road that you're going to make. If you try to think before doing the action and follow the upstream idea, you can easily try to minimize the violations, any kinds of other violations to anything. So that's the point of view. We're going to talk about energy and why, what is energy, what is exergy for very, very short. I hope that I can finish it in like 5 or 10 minutes maximum. After that, there are very important items as the life cycle that you need to know, and I hope that it's going to be useful for you. So let's have a few minutes of break. So what is energy? We're going to talk about energy and use of energy in this chapter, in this part, and we're going to close to the life cycle object and connect them together. I'm going to pass these parts very fast because you may already know these things, but the definition is very important for us. The energy in physics is the capacity of doing work. It may exist in potential, kinetic, thermal, electrical, chemical, and nuclear, or other various forms. There are moreover heat and work, energy in the process of transfer from one body to another. After it has been transferred, energy is always designed according to its nature. Hence, heat transfer may become thermal energy, while work done may manifest itself in the form of mechanical energy. So the ability of doing something, the capacity of doing the work, is the general definition of energy in physics. Just referring back to the basic science, the matter and energy do not disappear. This is the thing that we already know. Matter and energy tend to disperse. It means that it's going to expand over your environment of study. And the other concern that you can study yourself, the item in here is exergy. The maximum amount of energy, like the useful portion of energy, is the exergy, which is important for us. Like if you burn wood or something, there are some parts of the energy that is useful, or you can somehow handle it and put it in the way that you want to use it. That's the concept that we call it exergy. Okay? Mm-hmm. So the energy is ability of doing something in physics, the general explanation. And exergy is the maximum amount of energy, the useful portion that can be extracted from the system by work. Exergy can be destroyed, energy can't. The definition of exergy is the thing that we, by mistake, think that it's energy. So it's not energy. Energy is ability of doing in physics. But the exergy is the active portion, the useful portion that you're going to use. Defined by combining the first and second law of thermodynamics, energy is conserved and matter dispersed. Exergy available in some forms as energy. This is another thing. And here's the brief history of the energy that used by the human. I'm not going too deeply inside, but I think that you already know. The wind, and actually after that the steam engines, continuing the fuel cells invention at 1838 and things like that. So this is just the history, and right now we've got the jet engines and so on and so forth. So this is the way that using the energy, history of energy by the humans, start to get more and more involved in the life. So for human activities, we need 15 until 18 terawatts of energy right now. It's going to be 25 up to 35 terawatts by 2050. Okay, so we need like 2 times more energy that we're going to use now. So it's a big challenge for us. Try to make it in a sustainable way with respect of all the knowledge that we've got until now. So this is the thing that we need to take care of. Where will the extra energy come from? So that's the item that we're going to work on. From the biomass, we can have 7 terawatts of energy. Can you read it?
Yes.
The number for nuclear is 8, wind 2, and hydropower is 1. So it's 18 terawatts extra energy needed that we need to have it. All of them are the green energies. Okay? So we need 18 more at least. So how we can overcome the need? You know, remember the thing that I told you about sustainable development? I told you that we have to reach our needs without compromising the next generation's will, right? So this is our need. We need 80 terawatts more energy. It's needed for us. So we have to make it possible for us somehow. Okay? And this is an idea that we're going to talk just briefly, that you can have, the sun puts 800 terawatts per hour on the landmass. 800 per hour. We're going to look for 80 terawatts. We already have 800 terawatts of energy from the sun. It's going to put on our environment. So if we can handle it somehow, it's a green energy. We can use it. We don't need to use the other things. The item in here that a terawatt of the need can achieve by the nuclear. It means that building 8,000 new reactors over the next 45 years, it means we need 1 new plant every 2 days. Okay? So it means that we have to make lots of nuclears all around the world to just make that happen, that 8 terawatt of the energy that can be possible by the nuclear facilities, nuclear power plants. This is the energy resources. As you can see, the lunar gravitation is present in our system. The solar radiation, the solar gravitation is also there. The galactic radiation is going to cause an effect on your system. There is a core here which you can use. And all of them are going to affect on the biosphere that we're going to live on. We're going to keep living on the place. So we all the facilities that we've got, we need to overcome the need of providing the energy. I hope that you can see easily. This is the current global primary energy consumption is here. And hydro energy is the smallest one. Ocean and the wave energy, geothermal energy, biomass, wind energy, solar radiation is that box. And this is the thing that you're going to need. The fuel share, it's an awful truth again, that the coal is 25% of the fuel share, non-renewable waste is 0.2%, oil 34%, gas 20%, the nuclear 6.5%, but the renewable energies are just 16% of the fuel energy of the world primary energy supply. The number of renewable waste is 10% of that. The hydro 2.2%, and the other is going to be geothermal 0.4%, wind is 0.06%, the solar 0.03%, and the tide is 0.0004% of the share, the energy share. So as you can see there, renewable energy just 30% of the whole thing, and you can see how it's going to be divided. The world electricity production by the energy source, the oil is 7%, gas 20%, nuclear 16%, hydro 16%, and the coal is the big one, the 40%. And the renewable energy for the electricity production that you can see in here, the tide and waves, 0%, solar 1%. So this is the electricity production by the energy source. As you can see, we need a very, very big change in our system in order to find it. We've got the unlimited source like the sun, as I said. 800 kilowatts. 800, right?
Yeah.
800 kilowatts. We just need 80 more. So we can have our energy for heating, for making electricity, something like that, without any cost from the sun, and it's a renewable energy. I'm going to talk about the life cycle. This is the second item. For any kind of product that we're going to have, remember the concept of upstream that I told you. That why we need to think beforehand, why we need to cure the problem, the chaos, the disaster that's going to be happen from the source. So right now, we're going to talk about the life cycle of some kind of material that you're going to invent, you're going to use at the end. There are 5 items that you need to consider. The material that you're going to use is matter, the production, the transport, the use, and the disposal. For example, I bought this laptop, so I don't have any access to the materials. I can't do anything of that because it just happened before. The production, the transport, but the use and disposal of the product is dependent on me. So at least you're going to face with 2 of them. Maybe not all 5, but at least 2. So these are the items that you need to take care of. This is the life cycle overview. Okay? Mm-hmm. So there are 5 items. As I told you, the first one is the material. The resources extraction and the manufacturing, like the plastic and the things that you're going to get from the oil and so on and so forth. So this is going to be your material that you need for your, I don't know, the thing for the device, for the thing that you're going to make. After that, there's a production. So it's a manufacture process. Include the purchase and using it, assembling it, all the procedure of making that product that you're going to discuss, that's in your scope of study, anything that you're going to talk about, like the laptop, the mobile phone, anything, the car. So there's, again, another step for the production. Anything is in that place. The workers that they're going to work for you. So remember the whole system thinking? So imagine everything in the production layer. After that, there's a transport. You're going to make something in somewhere in the world and just spend too much money, send it to, I don't know, the other countries. Instead of, if the cost of transportation is too much, why don't you make it at the source, wherever that you want to sell them. So this is another concept. After that, the use, which is going to be very familiar for us because we are the user of the device, and after that, the disposal. These are the things that you need to consider for any kind of thing. It's called the life cycle. Okay?
Okay.
So the user, what should the product be used for? Okay, imagine that we're going to talk about the cell phone, okay? Let's just make an example and try to talk about the cell phone. It could be anything. Okay?
Okay.
So what should the product be used for? This is the thing that you need to know. What does the product do? This is another item. For whom? Who's the user? For how long? How long are you going to use that mobile phone, the cell phone? How often are you going to use it? Where in the world is the market that you want to sell your cell phone? So these are the things that you need to know also. What should the product be used for? So we need to describe of the basic task of the product that must carry out for the use. We need to know what kind of thing we're going to use. So what should the product be used for? The basic task that the product must carry out for the use. So this is the reason that the product is going to be used. What does the product do? Description of the product's functionality, including the technology principle and the feature that the product must passes in order to deliver the service to the user. So what does the product do? When you're going to analyze the, as I said, like the mobile phone, you need to do the functionality of the device in order to know the system. Remember the FSSD, the first item was the system, right? First of all, you need to know about your system. So that's the reason we're just going to get our information about the system that we're going to analyze. For whom? This description of the main user or the user group. So this is another item, that who's your user target, who's going to use your device. So you need to know some information about the users in order to give them some kind of services, okay? Right? Like the difference between cars in Japan and cars in the United States. So according to the knowledge that you've got from the users of your product, you can design your, product. Okay? So it's a very big difference between the Eastern cars, European cars, and American cars. So like we can separate them easily. With just looking at the car, you can understand, you can estimate that whether it's from East or West. For how long? And so the description of the life frames, which your product is going to be still functioning. So that's another item that you need to know. And where in the world, the geographical area that your product may be interested for some sort of people. So these are the things that you need to know. So there are critical questions that the QA that you need to know about the system. Where in the product life cycle you see sustainability impacts. Imagine that you're going to make a mobile phone, you want to make a car, you want to make anything. We're going to talk about the life cycle of the object. The item is where in the product life cycle you can see sustainability impacts. You have to mention the impacts to the principle that you already know. What is in the use of the product that creates sustainability impact. So it's also the using of the product may cause some effects. And can the product environmental profit be justified? It means that is a product needed. Lots of products that we're going to use is the luxury products. Okay, like for example, I don't know, like necklace maybe. You're going to extract something from the earth's crust, like the diamonds or other things. So you're going to use some sort of source that you are also limited in, do some production, so you've got that 5 levels in the production, and are you going to use it? Or like the iPod and iPad of the Apple. So you can, with the one laptop, you can have the 2 functions together. But the people were thinking that, no, I'm just need something to just listen to music. Or the other functions. So the question is, are you really need to use that device, that thing, or no? Like the grocery store, if you go to grocery store, lots of people are carrying lots of things. Maybe they just need some of them. Some of them are the luxury thing that they can also survive without using them. So that's the thing that you need to do. The fourth question, where in the product life can you see environmental impact? What functions are related to the product environment impact? So we're talking about the functionality of the product. Does the customer know that environmental problem that he's going to buy? So it's another thing that you need to know. Imagine that you're going to some sort of supermarket and you're going to buy, I don't know, radio for $5. So you just realize that this is the thing that I'm going to buy. I just bought it for $5, maybe. And after that, you're going to say that the material, the plastic that you're going to use is like, it just costs you if you want to extract it. It's like $1 is the material. And after that, there's some workers working on that product. And there are some shipment costs from the country that make it to get to you. Then there are the huge sellers, then resellers, then you can find it in the supermarket, in the store. And after that, there are lots of people who's going to work for that department store in order to sell it to you. So there are lots of expenses that is going to be added to that price, but it's still very cheap. It's like $5. So the question is, who's going to pay for that? Because if you just calculate all of them, it's not $5 glasses. It's going to be at least 100. So why it's too cheap? Who's going to pay the expenses? And that's the point. We're going to describe that. Can you do anything on the disposal? Have you ever think about it? Do you have any kind of solution that you're not going to impact the environment with your disposal? So these are the things that you need to know. So, sustainability profile. Just put these 5 items, materials, production, transport, use, and disposal, on the table again. And on the left axis here, just put the principles. Okay? So, try to talk about the material. The material you're going to use in your product. Is there any violation to the first principle? Just the material. Yes. So the lots of focus in that part is here. Because exactly the materials, lots of material that you're going to use in your car, in the cell phone, in scope of your study is going to be violated, maybe violated to the first principle. So that's the thing that you need to consider. The second one, the second principle. Do you have any violation to the second principle in the material field? Third and the second. And the same procedure for production, transport. Like in the material, maybe the main focus is on the first principle. In the production, maybe 2, 3, maybe there are some physical violations, and also 4, because you're going to deal with the people. At the transport layer, I think that maybe the most important part is the principle 2. And also, maybe, 1 because of the fuel, 4 because of the people you're going to deal in the transport field. Now after that, it's used. You don't have anything with the first principle, because I already about this thing. So I'm not the judge. I'm not going to do anything with that. Maybe not the second, you're using the cell phone, but the physical and the fourth one. And in the disposal, there are lots of violations for the first principle. The first principle is the extraction. But with your disposal, maybe the third one, the physical waste. or I don't know, something like that. So you need to consider these items. Just put them on the table when you want to analyze, when you want to do the sustainability profile of some sort of product. Just draw the table in two axes, one of them with 5 life cycle of the object, and the left axis could be the principles. Then try to illustrate these kinds of items. How high are your aspiration of the environmental impact? Who is your organization has responsibility for the sustainable improvement in the product development? Do you have any decision-making power? So these are the things that you need to know in order to overcome your problem. So just know that when you want to analyze something, these items, these questions, and these hints that I told you are going to give you the best estimation of the problem. And consider the items about the upstream and the facts that you need to consider, and got the whole system thinking. With all these things, you can do some changes. Remember the positive and negative feedbacks that maybe your product is going to affect on the system that you all also living in. So do you have any positive feedback? How about the negative one, and how you can handle them in a sustainable way? Thank you.